Hi everybody, so welcome to our next video in our Hinduism series. We've thought about Brahman, Atman, and Maya, the three pillars of the Vedanta worldview, the teachings of the Upanishads. Brahman, the name of this sacred reality, the boundless, formless, sacred source from which all forms come and to which all forms return. Brahman is the web of being out of which all reality comes, all consciousness, all matter, all energy, all forms. Everything that takes apparent separateness out here in the multiplicitous world never loses its eternal unity with Brahman. All remains Brahman despite appearances. And remember, Maya is the fog that keeps us from realizing the underlying oneness of all that is. And instead, looking out here, we just see all these separate things, and then we build a whole conceptual worldview around that. So Maya is the problem to be overcome. And we'll talk later about some methods and techniques and disciplines designed to help us pierce the veil of Maya and realize our oneness with Brahman. And Atman, of course, was simply the word for Brahman within all sentient beings, the universal self. So with that in place, today I want to think about another idea, Dharma. And Dharma is one of the richest, most kind of useful and complex ideas in the whole of Vedanta or Hindu philosophy. Dharma comes from the Sanskrit root dhri, D-H-R-I, dhri, meaning to hold or to sustain or to support. You know, the way a hammock tied between two trees kind of holds you up. Dharma is like that. Dharma is the network, is the system that sustains everything. It's how Brahman poured itself out into the world as an orderly cosmos. Everything here kind of works, and everything here supports everything else here. There's this sense in which the cosmos is a self-sustaining, supportive system, and the word for that is Dharma. But it's much more than just that, right? It also means the order or the structure or the pattern of reality, including the cosmic order, you know, all the laws of science and nature, and which is called Rita, and also the social order. You know, what's right and wrong here in the human world, and what should we as individuals, as families, as workers, as creators, what should we be doing in our construction of society and in our support of one another? Now, a little footnote here. In traditional Indian culture, Dharma is often heard that way as a kind of system of social obligation. Like if you're born into this caste, you just have to stay in that caste. Or if you're born as a woman, well, you just have to, you know, deal with it and take the lower class status. Or if you're born as a man, then you get to have this power. So from our Western sensibility, where we champion things like individuality and universal human rights and autonomy, personal autonomy, sometimes that ancient sort of classical sense of Dharma sounds somewhat oppressive, you know, the caste system. And yet we want to pull back, I think, in our study, universalize this idea, not just throw it away, but say, well, what does Dharma mean in our new context, in our understanding? Whether you're Indian or Western or whatever country you're in, a lot of people are asking that question. What does Dharma mean now, if we're trying to outgrow the caste system, which Buddha already preached against 25 centuries ago, which in the 20th century Gandhi preached against, and is technically illegal in India, and yet it still remains, kind of like here in the United States. You know, we passed a lot of civil rights legislation. There are African Americans on the Supreme Court and Latinas and Jews, and that doesn't mean we've gotten rid of anti-Semitism, sexism, and racism. So we can notice on one hand some progress, and we can also notice on the other hand the deep way that our biases are entrenched and institutionalized. So we're adding a lot of moving parts in already, but I wanted to touch on that other sense of Dharma, that kind of the social order, the social structure. Now, let's look for the universal possibilities, though, around this idea of Dharma. Think about it. Think about the ways in which your life and my life are supported by the universe. I did not make this water that I'm drinking. I wouldn't know how to make it, but I need it to live. I wouldn't know how to make this air. I didn't make the air. I didn't make gravity that holds me on the ground. I didn't put that nearby star in the sky called the sun. And I didn't invent photosynthesis that causes plants to grow, plants that we use for food. I didn't grow the cotton and weave it into cloth to make these clothes. I don't know how to extract crude petroleum from the ground, refine it into gasoline, put it in my car and drive. I didn't invent this technology, this camera that I'm looking into, these microphones, the internet. I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I got up this morning, put on my pants, drank a cup of coffee, and I'm just trying to keep up, right? So it's sort of silly, isn't it, to say that I am a self-made man, that I pulled myself up by my own bootstraps. I didn't even make my bootstraps. We exist in a network of systems, nested within systems, nested within systems. My life is only possible because of all of these natural systems and the work of tens of thousands of human beings who I will never meet, who made my clothes, who made my glasses, who built this house. So in that sense, when you reflect on your life and how beautifully and comprehensively you are supported, all of that is Dharma. Now comes the moral component. We acknowledge that everything I just said is true. And now, in this Hindu context, Dharma implies moral obligation. In the same way that I am wholly supported by the cosmos and by a whole bunch of people, all of my teachers and my doctors and the people who pave the roads that I drive on. I mean, it's endless, right? So not only am I completely supported, but that support triggers a moral obligation. Dharma then also means duty. And this is, to me, one of the most exciting definitions of Dharma, duty, specifically moral duty. Existence implies moral obligation. So now we're getting to the moral component of Hinduism. You know, we haven't heard much about that yet. There's no 10 commandments or anything. There's no specific list of do's and don'ts. But there is this general sense, this core, I would say, universal principle that because I am alive, I am morally obligated to take whatever talents and sensibilities and capabilities and disciplines that I've cultivated and that I've been gifted with and give those back in order to share in the mutual project of the sustenance of the world. This all goes back to Brahman. I keep telling you, root everything back to Brahman and you've got it. Since all of this poured forth from Brahman, then all of this is purposeful. Let's make this personal. Your life is not just your own private plaything. Your life, my life, is Brahman taking form. For some reason, Brahman took form as you. It became a form, a biological being with consciousness, ego, creativity, passion, empathy. You see the despair of the world and something in you wants to help. We are all connected in this mutual shared project of Dharma. This is a whole different way of thinking about your life, that you are the presence of Brahman Atman here in the field of time, in corporeal form. The moral question then becomes, what are you going to do? You see the woundedness of the world. You know, in Judaism, which we'll study later, there's this wonderful phrase, tikam olam. Tikam olam, the healing of the world. And in Judaism, as in Hinduism, this is our purpose. This is why we're here. This is why we were born, to become a part of the process through which the universe heals itself. So when we see woundedness, when we see suffering, when we see hunger, when we see need, when we see injustice, we can take action. And that is what we in fact must do. So on that kind of personal level, Dharma as duty, Dharma is the moral obligation to set aside whatever private ego cravings and desires that do not harmonize with the sustenance of the whole. Think of others instead of yourself. You know, there's that wonderful saying from Confucius, the inferior man asks, what's in it for me? And the superior man asks, what is the right thing to do? Do you have a transactional consciousness towards life? You only give when you know it's going to pay you back? Or are you interested in showing up in service and being part of the mutual project of the construction of the good without any attachment to outcomes, without even needing to be noticed that you're doing it? This is the golden rule in all the wisdom traditions, isn't it? Treat others the way you want to be treated. Now, Jesus said, however you treat the least of these, you are treating me. And so that constant reminder that my life is fun and pleasurable and difficult, but the ultimate cosmic reason we're all here is to step into our duty and our Dharma. And by the way, I'm keeping this sort of vague and loose because not everybody's Dharma is going to look exactly the same as everybody else's. Some people are called to the role of being warrior in military service or in police work. Other people are called to be artists or to be healers or to be teachers. And so I'm not talking about a specific career, right? Your Dharma is bigger than that. One can serve in 10,000 different ways. But when you add Dharma into the rest of what we've been thinking about, Brahman, Atman, and Maya, now we're starting to get this sense of the Hindu vision of life, that the good life is the life where I have set aside my private, childish, ego, pleasure cravings, and I have instead shifted my goals a little bit. I'm still going to have fun. I'm still going to have pleasure. Still going to make delicious food. Going to laugh. Going to watch stupid movies. I'm going to have fun. But I'm also realizing the depth of the reason that I am here. That I can now ask some different questions like, what is my purpose? And when I wake up in the morning, I can ask myself, what is my purpose today? Every room I walk into, how can I make it better here? How can I take what I find and improve it? And when we all show up in that consciousness, in the consciousness of Dharma, how can I take what I see and make it a little bit better? We all know we can't make everything perfect, but can we take small steps to be a part of the way Brahman gives birth to itself, to be a part of the way that the universe creates order out of disorder and beauty out of chaos? When you start to see your life this way, your own pleasure deeply increases. Your own sense of belonging to all of this deeply increases. Alienation, depression, anxiety, those things begin to lift off of you when you find your Dharma, when you find your purpose. Now you have a reason, right? Now you have a reason to be alive, to help lift people out of suffering, including yourself, to help restore the world to order. So this is a remarkable moment in our study of Vedanta philosophy, in our study of Hinduism, where the personal and the universal merge. And that's what you would expect in a non-dualistic system like Vedanta, where all is one. So suddenly, everything matters. The little things are how the big things happen. So as we move forward into these next few videos and continue to construct this Vedanta, this Hindu worldview, we need to think about karma, that the field of action is where we realize our Dharma, is where we carry out our purpose. So there's a lot of other pieces that are going to follow from this. So let's pick that up in the next video. See you on the other side.